that you are well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today we'll be doing our grade 8 English lesson on sentence creations. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once you've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts, grade 8, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of sentence creation. All right, so our chapter is sentence creation. The subject is English Language Arts, grade 8. And our lesson that we're going to be focusing on is to create a sentence based on the model. And we are doing our tutorial lesson on aplusstudents.ca. All right, so now we're going to aplusstudents.ca. And we are going to create a sentence based on the model. All right. So when it comes to creating a sentence based on a model, right? So basically, to make writing interesting or to make it more interesting, we need to try to use a mix of different kinds of sentences. You can get ideas of new kinds of sentences, but then it is imitating sentences that you are reading. So in order to make your writing more interesting, we need to try to use a mix of different kind of sentences. So we said that to make your writing more interesting, we need to try to we try to use a mix or variety of different kinds of sentences. And you can get these ideas from new kinds of sentences and then also by just imitating sentences that you are reading. All right. So by imitating, so we said that in order to make your writing even more interesting, right, you're going to have to imitate certain sentences that you are reading. And to imitate a model sentence, you're going to first look at it from its own pattern, or you're going to look at its form plus its pattern, or his pattern. You can ask all sorts of questions or sorts of words. You can ask all sorts of phrases and clauses that the sentence uses and what order they are in. So in order for us to make a remember, in order for us to make writing more interesting, yes, we need to try and mix up different kinds of sentences. And we get all these kind of ideas, especially if you are reading. So you're imitating sentences that you are reading. And in order for you to imitate a model sentence, first look at its form. So you need to look at the form and you need to look at, at the pattern. And you need to ask yourself all sorts of words, phrases, and clauses the sentence uses and what order they are in. All right. So we imitate model sentences by looking at the form as well as the pattern and ask ourselves all kinds of words, phrases, and clauses that the sentences uses and what do they really actually offer. And when it comes to a model sentence, right? It says, When I stepped out into the bright sunlight from the darkness of the movie house, I had only two things on my mind. All right. And then when it comes to a new sentences, right? Because remember, we are imitating sentences. We are asking ourselves, like, about the sizes of the sentences, stories. All right. So we see that when it comes to a new sentence, right, as long as our secret hideout stayed hidden from our schools in the deep deserted forest, we would have our little, we would have our lifelong dream where there's no parents and plenty of beef jerky. Hmm. All right, so we see that as long as our secret is the secret hideout stayed this way from other people, and they are deep in the desert, or let's say deserted forest, where would our little dream we would have our little dream. No parents and plenty of beef jerky. Both sentences, right, we use a subordinating conjunction. When and as long as to introduce the first clause. All right. So we see that when it comes to being on their own, creating sentences, right? We said that when we were busy creating sentences, both of the sentences it belonged to a subordinating conjunction, such as when and as long as to introduce the first clause. And both sentences they use prepositional phrases such as into the bright sunlight, from the darkness of the movie house, from the other people, and in the deep deserted forest. All right. So we see that when it comes to creating sentences, it is basically about more reading and then trying to imitate what you read, the phrases, the clauses, as well as sentences within, let's say, your own reading piece. All right. Okay, so if we look at this first activity, right, it says read the model sentences from Alex Garland's The Beach. Rice paddies need acres of land. So rice paddies need acres of flat, irrigated land, which we simply didn't have. So I knew we couldn't be growing it. So we're going to have to use the words and phrases to create a new sentences that matches the model. So when we use words and phrases to create a new sentence that matches the model, we can use certain or few of those sentences. So these are the words and phrases to create a new sentence that matches the model, right? It's a new a mural needs a team of loyal, reliable workers. So a mural needs a team of loyal, reliable workers, or else it seems this project will be taking a long time which hopefully we can find. All right. So we need to read the model sentence from Virginia Hamilton, The House of Dies Dreyer. It says Thomas was 13 years old today, and never in his life had he been so far from home. All right. So we see that when it comes to sentence creations, right, which is based on the models, we're going to go to the first tutorial where it says that we need to read the model sentence from Alex Garland's The Beach House. Alex, Alex Rice paddies, need acres of flat, immigrated land which we simply didn't have. So I knew we couldn't grow it. All right. And when it comes to creating a sentence based on the model, right, it's like us putting those sentences in order to create a model sentence. And we see that in order for us to also have those things, you're going to have to link up with a blisso. So we see that when it comes to our model words, sentence, right? In order for us to make the writing more interesting, we need to try and mix up the different kinds of sentences. And remember, by mixing up different kinds of sentences also, and to try and make it a bit easier, then it means that we can then get our ideas for new sentences by imitating sentences that you read, which means that you're going to have to read, right? So we basically create a new sentence, right? And we said that it will basically, you're basically going to have to read in order to make up more sentences, all right? And by imitating sentences that you read. And when we imitate a model sentence, you're going to have to first look at its form and you're going to have to look at its pattern. Ask what sort of phrases and clauses the sentences use and what order they are in. Then we're going to have to create a sentence following that same pattern. Okay. So we see that by imitating a model sentence, we need to first look at its form, the pattern, and ask what sorts of words, phrases, and clauses the sentences use and what are the order they're in. Then we create a new sentence that is following by the same pattern. All right. Let us. So when it comes to our model sentences or sentence creations, right, we then need to also think of coordinating conjunctions. We need to think of, let's say, basically conjunctions or prepositional phrases, right? And we said for a new sentence, as long as our secret hideout is hidden from the other people in the deep, deserted forest, we would have our lifelong dream. No parents and plenty of beef jerky. So, this is also where you use your imagination, right? So, it's not just about reading and playing, but you're using the imagination. And both of those sentences that we just read, it uses a subordinating conjunction, such as when or as long as, to introduce the first clause. All right. So both of us of the sentences that we read, right? It starts with prepositional phrases. Um, Also, we use words like into the bright sunlight, from the darkness of the movie house, from other people, and in the deserted forest to modify parts of the first clause, which means that there are certain words that was also added to it to exaggerate or to more give us a deeper meaning of sentence creations. And if we look at the sentence where it says we would have our lifelong dream, no parents and plenty of beef jerky, both sentences they use a colon, which is the sentence over here as well as the bottom one. They use a colon to introduce the final noun phrase. All right. Now we're going to our test. So we're going to now read this model sentence, right, from Ernest Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises. And it says, it felt comfortable to be in a country where it is so simple to make people happy. So it felt so comfortable to be in a country where it is so simple to make people happy. So we're going to have to use the words at the bottom and phrases to create a new sentence that matches the model. So if it says it felt comfortable to be in a country where it is so simple to make people happy. So here we have a few like words, right? It is after it grew too late. She was frightened to walk through the forest to consider herself safe. So we now need to use those words and phrases to create a new sentence that matches the model. So it says, it felt comfortable to be in a country where it is so simple to make people happy. All right, so in order for us to use that words, right, we can either use the words, she was frightened to walk through the forest after it grew too late to consider herself safe. Or we can say, it felt comfortable to be in a country where it is so simple to make people feel unhappy. So we need to choose which one is the correct one to create a new sentence. Is it the first option where we say she was frightened to walk through the forest after it grew too late to consider herself safe? Or it felt comfortable to be in a country where it is simple to make people happy? All right, so if we were to use the words and phrases to create a new sentence, right? we will choose the first one. Because she was frightened to walk through the forest after it grew too late to consider herself safe. Right? All right, so we're going to read the model sentence from Debbie Dahl Edwardson. My name is not easy. And it says, I gaze out the window at our family, a little knot on a fringe of tundra waving in the wind. So we're going to use the words in blue and phrases to create a new sentence that matches the model. The words are a single piece of twine at waist height, stretched tightly between twin trees towards the makeshift first line. Anna surged down the dusty path. All right, so if we read that, we're going to say, do we say that Anna surged down the dusty path towards the makeshift finish line, a single piece of twine at wayside stretched tightly between twin trees? Or do we say, I gaze out the window at our family, a little knot on a fringe of tundra waving in the wind? So we need to choose the correct one, the sentence that matches the model in bold. All right. So if we were to choose the correct word to create a new sentence, we will choose the first one, which says Anna searched down the dusty path toward the makeshift finish line, a single piece of twine at waist height stretched tightly between twin trees. And that one is correct. All right. Now we are going to read the model sentence from Alex Garland's The Beach. It says, rice paddies need acres of flat, irrigated land, which we simply didn't have. So I knew we couldn't be growing it. So now we're going to use the words and phrases in blue to create a new sentence that matches the model. So we have the words which is or else it seems. A mural needs a team of loyal, reliable workers. This project will be taking a long time, which hopefully we can find. So we need to choose the correct answer. Is it a mural needs a team of loyal, reliable workers, which hopefully we can find, or else it seems the project will be taking a long time? Or is it Rice paddies need acres of flat irrigated land, which we simply didn't have. So I knew we couldn't be growing it. So we need to choose the correct one. And if we choose the correct one, we will go with the first option, which is a mural needs a team of loyal, reliable workers, which hopefully we can find, or else it seems this project will be taking a very long time. And that is correct. So we're going to read the model sentence from James Joyce's A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. McCann went briskly to and from among the students, taking rapidly answering rebuffs and leading one after another to the table. All right. So we need to use the words and phrases now to create a new sentence that matches the model. So we need to choose it from the words in blue. So is it either from room to room in my apartment? I raced, angrily, packed my things, and slamming doors behind me in fury. All right. So if we use the words and phrases to create a new sentence that matches the model, we will say, I raced from room to room, which is the first option, in my apartment, mumbling angrily, packed my stuff, and slamming the doors behind me in fury. So that is going to be a new sentence that we are creating. So we need to read the model sentence from Holly Goldberg's Sloan Counting by Sevens. And the school was only blocks from our house. It was here that I first committed the crime of questioning the system. So now what we're going to do is to use the words and phrases to create a new sentence that matches the model. When these words like that, their team wouldn't win it. It was weeks until the game. Without inventing new plays, yet it became clear. All right. So we can then say that it was wings. Do we say it was weeks until the game? Yet it became clear that their team wouldn't win it without inventing new players or new plays. Or the school was only blocks from our house, and it was here that I first committed the crime of questioning the system. All right, so if we choose the correct one, we can say it was weeks until the game, yet it became clear that the team wouldn't win without inventing new plays. All right, so we said that when we're creating new sentences, right, then it means that you're going to have to also go deep into reading different other books. You're going to have to read other articles, phrases, right, in order for you to get an idea of different words and ideas in order for you to imitate it, right? We can start sentences either by using maybe subordinating conjunctions or prepositional phrases, right? And the colon to separate nouns. All right, so this is now the end of our lesson on sentence creation. Thank you very much for joining the class. Goodbye.